Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about the difference between used to and would. And a few days ago I released a video talking about used to, so if you're not familiar with this expression or you simply need to refresh your memory a little bit, I would recommend that maybe you watch that video before you watch this one. But basically the main point was that we use used to talk about repeated actions in the past or actions that continued over a period of time in the past. And in some of those situations it is also correct to use would, but in some of those situations it's not. So I'm going to tell you the difference. And to highlight the difference, first we're going to look at three types of actions in the past. So number one, represented in red, is an action that happened once in the past and it finished in the past and that's it. So for example, if I tell you that I went to Brazil in 2001, that's an action that happened only once. If I tell you that in 2001, or sorry, when I was 11, I had an accident on my bike, this would be another example of an action that only happened once. And for this type of action, it is not correct to use used to, and it is not correct to use would. So basically, you would simply use the simple past. The second type of action is a state that continued for a period of time. So for example, if I tell you that when I was younger, I lived near the beach. This is an example. I started living near the beach and then I continued living near the beach for a period of time. If I tell you that when I was a child, my family had a pet rabbit, this would be another example. We bought the rabbit and we continued having the rabbit. And if I tell you that when I was young, I didn't like vegetables, same thing. I didn't like vegetables and I continued not liking vegetables until at some point I did. And for this type of action, it is correct to use used to. So I could say that I used to live near the beach, my family used to have a rabbit, and I didn't used to like vegetables. Although the simple past would be acceptable as well. Used to is simply highlighting or emphasizing the fact that it is something that has changed, that these things are no longer true. And the final type of action would be represented in blue, and this is a repeated action in the past, so like a habit in the past. So if I continue telling you about my childhood, I could tell you that yes, I remember that when I was in elementary school, I took the bus to school every morning. So I took the bus to school one day and the next day and then the next day again and again. It's a repeated action, it's a habit. If I tell you that on the weekends, my family typically got together and watched movies and ate pizza, it would be a similar type of action. We ate pizza not just one weekend, but repeatedly, many times. And for this type of action, again, if you want to emphasize that it is no longer true, that it has changed, it is correct to use used to. So you could say that I used to take the bus to school every morning, that my family used to eat pizza on the weekends. It's fine, but it is also correct to use would. And if I had to say that there's a slight difference between used to and would, I would say that where used to focuses on the fact that it's something that has changed, would emphasizes that it's something that was repeated over and over again over a period of time in the past. So it's emphasizing the fact that it was a habit in the past. And so again, it's correct to use used to, but especially if you're telling a story, you might say, oh yes, I remember my childhood. It was a great time in my life. I remember that every morning I would wake up and I would take the bus to school, and when I arrived at school, I would go with my friends and we would have a great time. But my favorite time of that period in my life was the weekends, because on the weekends my family and I would go to the video rental store, and we would select a different movie every weekend, and then we would go home and we would watch the movie. And while we watched the movie, we would often eat pizza. So we would often eat pizza, and I would take the bus to school is correct, is the point. It would also be correct to use would to talk about repeated actions, even if they happen over a short period of time. So at the beginning, I told you that it's not correct to use would for the example of I went to Brazil in 2001, and that's correct. But maybe specific things that happen during the vacation would be possible with would if they happened repeatedly during the vacation. So maybe I would tell you that when I was in Brazil, I remember that my family and I would get up in the morning and we would go swimming in the beach every morning. That's correct. And so basically, to summarize, if an action happened just once in the past, don't use used to, and don't use would. If an action or a state continued for a period of time, only used to is correct. But if an action happened repeatedly in the past, used to is correct, and would is correct as well. And in any of these situations, obviously the simple past would be correct as well.